We all remember that first game we got with a new console. You know, the one that came bundled with it. Oftentimes it was all we had for a while, so these things better make a good and lasting impression. The Mega Drive got us Altered Beast for example, or how about Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt for the NES. But Philips got them all beat, because they gave us not one, not two, but three whole games in... Oh wait. Wrong system. We'll get back to that one some other time. No, when it came to CDI they actually gave us 10 games to start out with.
This is Family Games 1. When the CDI 220 assassinated my family's dreams for a vacation in the near future, it brought this disc into our home as well, together with this one, but that's for learning stuff. Kids ain't got no time for that. But could we even call Family Games 1 an actual, well, you know, game? Or should we see this more as a pack-in demo disc to show off the capabilities of the system? Well, we're going to take a look at everything it had to offer. But I'll also try to point you to some other games on CDI that give you a more fleshed out experience on the ideas presented here. Now before we dive in proper, please note that CDI actually had many different pack-in options over the years. Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia was nearly always part of it, though in earlier days it was more of an option instead of a pack of games. Yeah, those earlier days of CDI marketing were quite hilarious indeed. These different options, or should I say attempts at marketing, heavily depended on the model and the hardware you got with it. The most well-known pack-in title for gamers is probably Burn Cycle, which came with the 450 model. There were also actual demo or sample discs. These were mostly video CDs featuring advertisements for all the cool things on offer on CDI. But let's not get too far from the actual topic at hand, as we'll have a lot to cover. As stated earlier, this disc offers a total of 10 activities and their quality and fun factor varies wildly. At least it's a good variety, I suppose. These are more intended to offer something to everyone in the family instead of offering much in the way of actual games to play together. You know, what you would associate most when you hear the term family games? But let's dig into some actual gameplay here. First up we have Full Attack. This will for most people, me included, be the highlight of the disc. It's a basic horizontal shooter. You navigate through 4 levels filled with static enemies that, depending on the difficulty, may shoot minuscule pellets at you. What elevates this game above the others is just its bizarre presentation. Enemy and level design is just the right kind of wacky to be quite enjoyable and making you interested to see what comes next. The music is also pretty fun. It's the same score for each level, but the different instrumentations give each a very different feel. The second level even has a totally rad guitar riff. Clearly, someone had fun that day at the office. Unfortunately, there are no sound effects at all. Getting through the entire game is real tough. Controls are fairly delayed, especially if you want to pause the game. Only do that in a safe spot. One hit and you're out, and it's off to the beginning of the stage, which is this game's biggest issue, as there are no checkpoints during the stages, and of course they had to put the hardest parts near the end. So each time you have to fly through the entire stage again, each lasting a couple of minutes. When out of lives, there are no continues. So yeah, I know there are 4 levels, but never actually saw that last one, I'm afraid. If you managed to make it that far, then why not step it up another notch and give Steel Machine a try for some more horizontal shooting action? If this game hadn't driven you up the walls yet, then that one just might. But it's in small bursts actually quite good and excellent fun. Next up we have Yokisen, a basic overhead adventure game in which you need to find 7 mirror shards to restore some magic mirror a princess has been locked up in. You also need to save, allegedly save, all of her loyal geishas, also hidden throughout the land. Along the way you will find some keys that will open up more of the world, and this annoying black ninja dude will occasionally pop up trying to shoot you in the back. You do get a gun to temporarily get rid of him, but your ammo is limited.
Hang on a minute here, if this is supposed to be feudal Japan, then how come the ninjas have guns? Point well taken, can't argue with the great screenwriters.
It is kinda interesting to go through the game once and figure out where all the things are, which shouldn't take you all too long. For what it is, the game area to explore is fairly big. Where the first game was quite charming, however, this one really lacks in its presentation. Rather boring and tiny sprites, no music at all, and low quality and rather off-putting stock sound effects. What's also annoying is that in a few instances you can't go back to previous areas. If you forgot to pick up one of the required collectibles there, you've locked yourself out of completing the game. It's a decent diversion to go through once and see how big play areas can work on the system, but you won't come back to this one anytime soon. Looking for a more evolved overhead adventure game on CDI? Well, in that case I'd recommend the recently released Nobelia. Not a very long game, but a great show of what is possible on the system and offering some fun Bomberman-esque gameplay. Next we have Where's That Sound? This one actually allows you to play with up to 4 players, taking turns as you play, well, memory. But instead of pictures, you'll be pairing more stock sound effects. There is some variety in the boards you play on, but the big issue here is that a 4x4 grid is just too small a play area to make this in any way interesting. If for some reason you want to test your auditory memory on CDI, then perhaps give Name That Tune a go and see how well you remember those older hits. The best thing? You can choose to never lose at it, as it totally relies on the honor system. And of course, you are always honest and admit when you've made a mistake, right? Next game on the list is Skid Card. This is a game kind of like the old arcade classic Rally X maybe? You need to collect enough flags to open the exit and actually get there within the time limit. There are also some pickups for points and time extenders, but also red clocks that deduct time. You also find some other cars milling about and there is no way to defend yourself, you'll just have to avoid them, which is easier said than done as the maze layouts can lead to dead ends at times. The other cars will also sometimes randomly sound their horn, which always tends to send me into a panic frenzy, but most of the times they are nowhere in sight. Trolling bastards. The time limits and flag requirements also get real tight real fast, making this another game that I have never seen the ending of, and one that can be quite frustrating having to go through the earlier levels each time. Apparently there are 8 stages in total. Also, you may have noticed by now, but the disc tends to reuse some assets from games, mainly the status bar at the top of the screen and the high score screen, with some slight alterations. High scores can be saved for most games, so in the words of the manual, how's that for competition? Even though it's not an exact match, a game that comes close in playstyle is DIMA's Quest. It too sees you go through mazes, collect enough items and get to an exit within a much more forgiving time limit. All this whilst avoiding enemies and other obstacles. It's actually quite fun and has some nice tunes to boot. Well, we're getting to the half point of the disc now, and this is really where the drainage is and where we find the nasty clogged up bits. Here's Captain Alphabet, which is just a priority skin for a game of Hangman. On the first screen you may think that you can select how many players are playing, but for some reason no one had the bright idea to include a multiplayer option for this classic word game on a disc called Family Games. Yeah, remember that joke at the start of the video? Videopuck did actually offer this functionality for their version of Hangman, and that was in what? 1978? What gives? It's not indicated at all, but the stereotype you select actually relates to the language of the word you'll be guessing. The game does indicate the language during gameplay at least. Otherwise, all assets are identical, no matter your choice in potential shark delicacy, and they're not great. Very crude graphics and more low quality audio quips.
Go ahead.
Seems like someone on the team was a Dirty Harry fan.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I guess this works for what it is, just a simple game of Hangman. What could you really expect? It's such a simple game after all. So of course CDI actually features a full-blown game based on it in Effacer. Hangman from the 25th century. Yeah, it's as campy as it sounds. Which might actually make it worth a look for a laugh. I suppose it does also offer some educational purpose since it does really feature a lot of obscure words. And it has a 2-player option and forbids double negatives, so you'd better enjoy it. On the other side of this halfway gutter we have Draw Stamp Color. This is basically what you expect. Honestly, as a demo, having something for kids to just toy around with and offer a way to make some drawings or do some coloring, it's an okay addition. Just not much to really say about it. CDI's Paint School titles are this, but a bit more expanded. What I really want to highlight here though are the possibilities the platform has to offer when it comes to titles aimed at kids. Be it for pure entertainment or some pretty decent edutainment. This is easily one of the strongest points of the system, and many of these titles still hold up pretty well to this day. The giant roller controller is also fun and accessible to use for kids. Honestly, CDI is still very capable to replace that pesky tablet in no time, and any aesthetics you were going for in a living room of course. Next up is Super Slide. Yay, it's a sliding puzzle game. Joy. I suppose each family has that one odd member that actually enjoys these, maybe? At least there's a decent selection of different pictures and you can set a timer to challenge yourself, going from tough at 6 minutes to impossible at just 1 minute. Even though I'm absolutely terrible at these, I honestly doubt it's even possible to beat one within a single minute due to the control delay alone. If it's more puzzles you seek, then how about helping me figure out where my money keeps hiding at the end of each month? Or, I guess if you prefer, you could also take a look at Merlin's Apprentice, which features also kind of sliding puzzles, only even more difficult to wrap your brain around. Let's instead quickly move to some more action with Morphin Invasion, which for some might be straight up nightmare fuel. It's a vertical shooter on a static level screen that changes after a couple of waves of clown faces. Yeah, good luck to those suffering from coulrophobia. All that's missing is some demonic circus music, but once again, audio is rather lacking here. The game also doesn't play too well. The enemies just move too fast and shoot too often for your limited movement speed and actual room to maneuver to handle. As a simple points challenge game it works I guess, but it has next to no lasting appeal and I just find it too frustrating in general to have much fun with it. A slightly better game like this would be Alien Gate, with the emphasis on slightly. It's about the same gameplay experience, but does offer a bit more diversity in enemies and some power-ups, and is a pretty big step up when it comes to presentation. For an even later game that offers a more arcade-like experience, you could have a look at Tetsu Gaiden. But if you're more into medieval battles, then perhaps the next game, Wizard, is more up your alley. As it has you battle a full-blown wicked wizard who did the old damsel kidnapping. He even set his pet dragon loose on you, so better watch out before you burn your bum. So suit up and prepare for battle. A battle of pong, basically. Knock down 3 wall pieces in a row behind the wizard and you win. If he knocks down the panels behind you, you're toasted good. It's kind of interesting that of all the games on this disc, this is the one they actually put some effort into the presentation and theming. It even has a voiced intro. There's 3 different difficulty settings and they do make a difference, but even on hard it's not that hard to beat the CPU. It's kind of a shame they didn't add a 2-player option for this one. I mean, it's Pong. It was the first thing we played on our home consoles, yet CDI can't mimic that experience here. If you want such an experience, you could head over to the sequel to this disc, as Family Games 2 does offer a Pong-like game for 2 players. Or, and don't laugh, there is International Tennis Open. I know it's not Pong, but when you think about it, Pong was really virtual tennis now, wasn't it? So we just went full circle. Do make sure that you pick up the 2-player version of that game though. Yeah, back then CDI didn't actually have DLC yet, so you know, you had to just go out and buy a new version for added features. And even though it's a bit sluggish in handling, it's on CDI after all, it's still a rather decent tennis game overall and at the time of its release looked quite stunning for home systems. Now to bookend this collection we have the game Hot Rocks. A rather cold closer, I'm afraid. It has you in between the Earth and the Moon and you shoot rocks, which don't actually seem all that hot. Anyway, I guess the Moon was fed up with Earth bossing it around, so it decided to shed its surface to give it a taste of its own gravitational medicine.
Think Moonfall, but much shorter and better written.
You need to shoot the incoming pebbles and prevent us from going the way of the dinosaur. Button 2 switches between different camera views, one for each side of the station. Button 1 makes space gravel, assuming your aim is true. Shooting Earth doesn't do anything, which is a good thing as the rocks are nearly impossible to see above landmass. The object is simple, just hold out as long as you can and amass the most points. You're done when either your ship takes too many hits or the Earth does, at which point nothing really happens, you just get a boring game over text, so it's not even fun to lose in this one. The boat scene in Thunder in Paradise we recently took a look at comes very close to the gameplay offered here and pulls this off much better. It has more variety in armaments and enemies and actually allows you to win, even though that will take some practice. It's maybe less practical for just a quick score challenge, but there are other games better suited for that. Rest in Pieces comes to mind, for example. And that's it. 10 activities to have a go at on CDI with recommendations to find some better alternatives on the system for each. Is Family Games 1 a total disaster? Nah, I don't think so. It is a 10-in-1 deal after all, and most that's on offer works perfectly fine. As a first step onto the platform, it is still a cool disc to go through, I think, but it remains mostly a curiosity and not something you will come back to often.
Unless you're some CDI nut, like this guy. Anyway guys, what I do hope you will find your way back to are more videos on here. And if you have made it this far, then thank you so much for watching. And do let me know your favorite experience with a new console and the game that came with it. Was it an actual demo disc? Was it an actual game you got with the system? Or was it actually just the menu system as you waited for that first game to arrive? I would love to hear your stories on that. And if you have more hunkering for CDI content, then have you seen what Hulk Hogan did on CDI? Well, you can find out by this video over here, where he takes on Thunder in Paradise. Anyway guys, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, take care, de mazzel!